Hello there, my dear friend. I'm super excited that you found your way to my channel. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and share the video with your friends or family. It truly supports me. Drop a comment telling me your city or country. I love reading them all. Let's get started. Martin had always thought of his life as thoroughly uneventful, too predictable to hold any real secrets. He ran the family-owned grocery store his father had left him, settling into a life defined by routine, rarely disturbed by the unexpected. To friends and neighbors, his relationship with Gloria appeared unshakable. She was a fixture in the community, known for her devout religious beliefs and tireless volunteer efforts. Her days were spent immersed in charitable causes, attending prayer circles and organizing local outreach. People spoke of her with admiration, moved by her sincerity and modesty. The connection between her and Martin seemed immovable, built over many years of mutual trust. Gloria was never secretive with her phone. It was always within reach, and Martin had known the passcode for as long as he could remember. There were no odd messages, no unexplained calls, no private conversations held behind closed doors. On the surface, everything pointed to complete transparency. But even so, something began to feel different. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, but Martin noticed a shift. In recent months, Gloria had begun spending increasingly long hours on church-related obligations. Where she once returned home before the sun dipped below the horizon, usually tired but content, arms full of donations or church materials, her reasons for staying out had become more elaborate. There were always new events, unexpected tasks, or families who needed help. Each time, she had a fresh explanation for why she would be out so late. She explained everything openly, her voice calm and unwavering. Yet Martin couldn't shake the unease that crept in. He tried to push it aside, to remind himself that doubt had no place in a marriage shaped by faith and years of understanding. Still, the anxiety persisted. Like thunder rolling in from a distant storm, he alone could sense. Then came the evening that altered everything. Martin was going over the store's numbers when Gloria called. Her tone was composed as usual. She said she would be staying late at the church for an intensive cleaning effort that might take several hours. She told him to take it easy, that there was nothing to worry about. He assured her he would, but the moment the call ended, he made a decision. He picked up his keys and headed out the door. As he drove through the quiet, near-empty streets, his heart thudded steadily in his chest. When he arrived at the church she had mentioned, he parked discreetly nearby. The building was silent, the windows dark. There was no indication that anyone was inside. He checked the front entrance, locked. The lot was deserted, not a single vehicle in sight. Martin waited in his car for a while, scanning the area, watching for any hint of movement. But nothing stirred. The church sat cloaked in stillness, untouched and empty. That's when clarity struck. His instincts hadn't misled him. Back at home, he remained quiet. Gloria returned late into the night, her demeanor unchanged. She recounted her evening with ease, detailing how she and several other women had cleaned and organized in preparation for a church event. Her voice was animated, her expression serene. For a brief moment, Martin doubted himself, wondered if he'd overreacted, if his fears had warped his perception. He listened carefully, but kept his thoughts to himself. On the outside, he appeared unchanged, calm. But inside, his mind raced. That night, while Gloria slept peacefully beside him, Martin lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He mentally replayed the night's events, turning over her words again and again. The falsehood, however subtle, had revealed itself. He lacked proof, but he didn't need it anymore. The truth was no longer a distant shadow, it was drawing closer. By dawn, he had resolved to act. He could no longer endure the ambiguity, the gnawing questions. He needed certainty, and soon. Without mentioning anything to Gloria, he left the house early and drove into the heart of the city. Tucked between aging buildings stood a small office with an understated sign, Caleb Brown, Private Investigator. Martin hesitated for just a moment, inhaled deeply, and stepped inside. Caleb Brown was a man of few words, with eyes that missed nothing. Martin laid out the entire story, the increasing late-night absences, the empty church, the growing sense that something wasn't right. Brown listened attentively, his face impassive until the very end. Then, with quiet certainty, he agreed to take the job and start right away. His response carried the weight of experience, like someone who had uncovered many uncomfortable truths before. As Martin walked out of the office, a strange calm came over him. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of direction. He understood that whatever answers awaited him, life would never be the same again. The next 3 days dragged by with unbearable slowness. Martin did his best to keep up appearances, maintaining his usual schedule. But nothing felt normal anymore. Every time he looked at Gloria, tension surfaced. Each word she spoke was measured in his mind, examined for inconsistencies. Her behavior remained unchanged. She still murmured prayers with her rosary, still made his favorite meals, still spoke passionately about church plans. But Martin saw beyond the surface now. Behind her familiar smile, he recognized something carefully concealed. The call came without warning, slicing through the stillness of the afternoon as Martin sorted stock in the back room of the grocery store. The voice on the line was firm, devoid of emotion. Caleb's message was brief. Come to the office immediately. He had reached a conclusion in the case. Martin didn't hesitate. He set the box down where he stood and left without a word, his pulse quickening as he headed out. Something in his gut told him the truth he was about to face would be harsh, though even that instinct hadn't braced him enough for what awaited. When he arrived, Caleb was already seated at his desk, his expression as unreadable as ever. A thick, weathered envelope rested neatly before him, its edges reinforced with clear tape. Without preamble, Caleb pushed it across the table. Martin reached for it, his fingers unsteady, and carefully peeled it open. Inside lay a stack of photographs, silent, brutal witnesses to a truth he hadn't wanted to imagine. Each image delivered its own quiet blow. There was Gloria, exiting a motel beside a man Martin immediately recognized. It was Philip, the ever-present church regular, known for his friendly smile and devotion to Sunday worship. Philip, whose wife Alice rarely showed her face at community gatherings. The images told a straightforward story. Gloria and Philip arriving together, moving with a familiarity that made it obvious this wasn't a chance encounter. One picture captured them leaving, both smiling easily, as if they'd just finished a relaxed lunch, not a secret meeting. Martin stared, each photograph carving into him with painful precision. His thoughts scattered, trying to rearrange themselves around a truth too sharp to ignore. There was no room for second guesses or hopeful reinterpretations. The evidence was absolute. Caleb, always composed, explained that the surveillance spanned multiple days. Each visit had been logged. The same place, the same time frames Gloria claimed to be at church. The photos were time-stamped, the logbooks copied, everything documented with painful clarity. Martin couldn't tear his eyes away. He was trapped by the certainty in his hands. Every detail, the way they looked at each other, the soft, familiar gestures, cut deeper than he'd expected. But what shattered him most was not the affair itself. It was how effortlessly Gloria returned home after each encounter, as though nothing had happened. He slid the pictures back into the envelope, stood, and gave Caleb a nod of quiet gratitude. Caleb reminded him, gently, that he didn't have to go through this alone. Sitting in his car afterward, Martin felt like stone. The envelope weighed down his lap, his chest hollow and burning with grief and rage. The uncertainty that had once gnawed at him was gone. What remained was cold, hard fact. There was only one step left: confrontation. He had spent too long suspended in a comforting illusion, clinging to a life that was never what it seemed. He started the engine, his mind already formulating a plan, clear, unwavering. This would be the end of the deception. He gripped the envelope like it might scorch his fingers. With each bend in the road, the images returned, sharper than ever. Once home, he went straight to the phone. When Gloria answered, her tone was calm and composed. She said she was still at church, wrapping up a meeting that had run over. Her voice was so convincing, so natural, that for a fleeting moment he almost believed her. He responded with a flat, "Okay," and hung up. Then, without pausing, he picked up his keys and drove directly to the address she'd given. He parked in front of the church. The building stood quiet, dark, and empty. No movement anywhere. He called again. She answered, repeating the same line with practiced ease. She'd be out soon, she said. She was just finishing up. This time, Martin didn't play along. "That's fine," he said. "I'm parked out front. I'll wait." The silence that followed was instant and heavy, stretching wide across the line. She fumbled, trying to sound casual, suggesting he stop by the store to grab a few things for dinner. She even mentioned his favorite dessert, but Martin didn't move. "I'm staying right here," he said, "exactly where I am." There was a longer pause now. The lie had nowhere left to hide. Moments later, he saw her, emerging not from the front doors, but from a dim, narrow path along the church's side. Her head was lowered, her steps hesitant, her face weighted with shame. She hadn't come through the entrance. That said everything. Martin remained still. When she reached the car, he opened the door with a single word. "Get in." Gloria obeyed, silent as she slid into the seat beside him. He started the engine, pulling away as a thick, wordless silence filled the space between them. No conversation followed. None was necessary. The truth sat there with them, undeniable and complete, speaking louder than either of them ever could. Midway through the drive, Gloria finally broke the silence. Her voice was unsteady, trembling as she tried to explain. She spoke of confusion, of a misstep, how she'd left to handle something personal, always planning to return to church afterward. But her words were scattered, weak, as though she didn't believe them herself. Her excuses floated in the air, hollow. Martin didn't react. He stared straight ahead, expression unreadable, his hands steady on the wheel. Not a single word passed his lips until they were nearly home. Then, without meeting her eyes, he reached beside him, picked up an envelope, and gently placed it on her lap. She opened it, and the second her eyes registered what was inside, her composure crumbled. Her face contorted, tears surged forth. She tried to speak, but her voice collapsed into sobs. Choking on panic and guilt, she pleaded for forgiveness, confessed it was a moment of weakness, swore she never meant to hurt him. Over and over, she insisted her love for him was real, that it had never wavered. Martin didn't move. His face remained calm, eyes locked on the road. He said nothing. The silence stretched until they pulled into the driveway. There he turned off the ignition, looked at her, quiet, firm, and spoke in an even, measured tone. "You have 1 hour. Pack your things and go." Without another word, he stepped out of the car, leaving her sobbing, her lap a mess of photographs, the weight of shame pressing down on her from all sides. His decision was final. Nothing she said could undo it. Gloria entered the house, climbed the stairs, and began packing in a daze. Her face was vacant, devastated, as she crammed clothing into bags. Downstairs, Martin sat alone, still as stone, eyes on the clock, determined, resolute, waiting for her time to be up. Just before the hour passed, Gloria returned with her suitcases. She didn't speak. She walked out the door, burdened by guilt, broken by the consequences of her own actions. After she was gone, Martin retrieved the envelope from the car. It felt heavy in his hand, as though it contained more than just paper. Justice, perhaps. He took his keys and left, already knowing exactly where he needed to go. With that same composed resolve, he drove to Philip's house. When he arrived, he got out and knocked with purpose. Philip opened the door, startled to find Martin standing there, holding the envelope. Before he could say anything, Martin spoke in a calm, unwavering voice. "I need to speak with your wife." Philip froze, caught off guard. Moments later, Alice appeared, confused by the unexpected visit. Without explanation, Martin handed her the envelope. Alice accepted it, puzzled. As she began to open it, Martin turned and walked away. He didn't stay to watch her reaction. He didn't utter another word. He simply returned to his car and drove off, knowing everything that needed to happen was already in motion. The divorce proceedings moved at astonishing speed, faster than anyone expected, even the attorneys. The evidence was undeniable. Gloria had no grounds to contest it. No arguments, no negotiations. Martin kept the house and the grocery store. Gloria walked away with her share of savings and nothing more. No alimony, no appeals. Throughout the legal process, Gloria tried to reach him, again and again. She left voice messages, sent letters, even showed up at the store, begging for a second chance. She said she still loved him, claimed it was all a terrible mistake, but Martin remained unmoved. He never responded, never returned a message. When their paths crossed by chance, he looked right through her, as if she didn't exist. Philip, meanwhile, was unraveling. The night Alice saw what was in that envelope, she threw him out immediately. No fight, no discussion. He wasn't even allowed to pack. Word of the affair spread swiftly, through the church, the community, and soon Philip found himself completely ostracized. The image he had carefully built, of a faithful husband, a respectable man of faith, collapsed. Friends cut him off. Calls went unanswered. Work dried up. He became a pariah, a living warning to others. Alice, on the other hand, received support. Friends and family gathered around her. With their help, she began again, building a new life away from the wreckage of betrayal. As for Gloria and Philip, the connection that had once burned in secret vanished the moment their affair was revealed. Whatever fantasy they had conjured evaporated under the weight of exposure. Shame drove them apart. They avoided each other completely, like strangers with a shared regret. They never spoke again. Martin's path took a very different turn. After the divorce, he threw himself even deeper into managing the grocery store. When the truth became public, people respected the way he had handled it, with quiet strength, without drama or revenge. He never spoke ill of anyone. He simply said that the truth always finds its way, and that actions always yield their harvest. He healed slowly, on his own terms, choosing serenity over bitterness. He surrounded himself with honest people and protected the peace he'd reclaimed. He never let resentment take hold. In the end, his story didn't stand out because of the betrayal, but because of how he answered it, with grace, with silence, with unwavering dignity. While Gloria and Philip sank into shame and obscurity, Martin moved forward, lighter than before, carrying only what truly mattered: the truth. It became his compass, his shield, and the only thing from the past he chose to carry into the future. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.